So, how does a simple ice hockey rink turn into one of the Olympics' biggest hurdles? At first glance, an arena just seems like a big building. Some seats, bright lights, a cold floor, done. Give a team money, gear, and time, and it sounds easy. But when you've got the world's best athletes about to sweep in, billions glued to their TVs, and deadlines closing in fast, that ice sheet feels so much heavier. Suddenly, you're testing engineering limits, logistics, and maybe your own sanity. Make one mistake, drag your feet a little, and it's not just a hiccup, it's a crisis. You risk not just the games, but the country's reputation, its economy, how it stands on the world stage. It's a tightrope with no safety net. Glad you're back with SmartScope. I'm Emma Chamberlain, here to pull back the curtain on the tough realities behind the systems, tech, and heavy lifting projects that hold up our world. Today, we're staring right into the mess at the heart of Milan's Santa Giulia Ice Hockey Arena, a place meant to stand for Italy's Olympic ambitions, but nearly taken down by a perfect storm of setbacks. As we dig into delays, cost explosions, and political headaches that almost threw the 2026 Winter Olympics off the rails, you'll see, this story isn't just about a building. It's about a wild, relentless dash to deliver when quitting isn't an option. So let's rewind to 2019. That's when the International Olympic Committee picked Milan and Cortina d'Ampezzo to host the 2026 Winter Games. Italy's celebration was huge, a chance to show off the country's beauty and culture, plus some modern swagger. Milan's urban polish mixed with Cortina's alpine charm. Honestly, pretty irresistible. Italy beat out big names like Stockholm, Calgary, and Sapporo, all eager for a shot. Hosting the Olympics? That's not just a big deal. It's a monster. Massive budgets, years of scrambling, and a checklist long enough to make your head spin. Stadiums, transport hubs, athlete villages, media bubbles, all built or reworked fast. And always, that threat of spiraling costs and timelines creeping out of control. For these games, the planners tried something new. Don't reinvent the wheel. Most venues were already standing, just needing a facelift or temporary add-ons. That approach kept spending down and dodged the white elephant trap that wrecked budgets for Athens, Rio, or Sochi, where empty stadiums still haunt their cities. But there was one big exception, Santa Giulia Arena. The plan called for a shiny, brand-new rink in Milan, built to host Olympic ice hockey. After the games, it wouldn't go dark. It'd flip into a concert and event hall, offering decades of music, shows, and possibly future sports for the city. On paper, totally doable. Straightforward as any big project gets. Enough money, clear blueprints, an experienced contractor. What could go wrong? The budget sat around $210 million. Yep, sizable, but nothing shocking for a marquee European venue. Construction was set for fall 2022, just ahead of winter, which gave crews plenty of room before cold weather set in. Wrap it all up by late 2025, spend a few months testing, make a few tweaks, and you're set for the Olympics early in 2026. They even built in some safety margin for slowdowns. No surprises, right? Well, that didn't last. As deadlines crept closer, all sorts of complications started bubbling up. Delays, budget headaches, outside pressures nobody in the original planning meeting had a map for. The easy rink turned into a struggle that would push everyone to their limits. The world didn't see it coming, but when COVID-19 hit in 2020, everything went sideways, especially for big construction projects. Work stopped cold. Sites everywhere shut down, plans stalled out, supply chains tangled up, and the workers that made these places run couldn't even get in the door. The Santa Giulia Arena project landed right in the thick of it. All those careful schedules? Out the window. Workers waited on the sidelines, with materials stuck in ports, project managers just staring at calendars and wondering when things would move again. When things finally started to look up, another wave hit. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. Suddenly, prices for energy and building materials shot through the roof across Europe. Sanctions and chaos in the global supply chain pushed costs to levels no one had planned for. Steel, concrete, transport, labor, every last bit got pricier. Project managers were left scrambling, renegotiating contracts, begging for more cash from government budgets already stretched to the breaking point. The price tag for the arena just kept climbing. What was supposed to cost $210 million shot up to nearly $300 million. That kind of overrun wasn't just hard on the budget, it threatened the whole project. Groundbreaking dates slipped further and further, pushing completion right up against tight Olympic deadlines. Mess this up, and the entire event might unravel. Every call the planners made felt like it carried the risk of disaster. The pressure was real. Could they actually pull this off before time ran out? But this arena was always more than a shell of seats and walls. Olympic hockey venues call for a lot. First, there's the main building. Think spectator seating, locker rooms, media spaces, restrooms, restaurants, and press boxes. Every part needs to check all the boxes set by the International Olympic Committee and different sports federations. They have rules for dimensions, accessibility, safety, you name it. And then comes the ice, which isn't just frozen water. Olympic rinks are surprisingly high-tech. Building a hockey rink starts with pouring a massive concrete slab packed with a grid of refrigeration pipes. These pipes circulate chilled water and glycol, keeping the slab cold enough so water freezes on top, but not so cold that the pipes freeze solid. The whole temperature system has to stay perfectly tuned, or the ice surface ends up bumpy or unreliable. Bad news for fast-moving games. Once that system's humming, it's time for ice. Technicians spray layer after layer of water, letting each one freeze completely. They do this dozens of times, building up multiple centimeters of glassy, even ice. It's slow work. Rushing means trouble. If you let any air in, if you leave even the smallest imperfection, you risk issues. Pucks behaving strangely, skaters slipping, maybe even injuries. The ice has to be flawless. There's no room for error at the Olympic level. In Olympic hockey, every detail counts. When the best players in the world hit the ice, even the smallest issues become glaring problems. This time, the stakes were even higher because the NHL finally agreed to let its players join the 2026 Olympics. A big deal after years of back and forth. Getting there wasn't easy. The league, the players' union, and the International Olympic Committee wrangled for years over logistics, costs, and, of course, money. NHL players hadn't suited up for the Olympics since Sochi 2014. That long break came down to disputes over scheduling, who'd pay the bills, and what would happen if star players got hurt or tired while representing their home countries. Letting NHL stars compete is risky for the league. The Olympics land smack in the middle of the NHL season, so the league basically has to shut down for weeks. That sort of pause throws off the rhythm and costs millions in lost revenue and TV deals. And there's always that fear. What if one of your best players goes down with an injury in Italy? It isn't just a loss for their national team. It hurts their NHL team, messes with the season, and costs money. But you know what? Most players still love the chance. For them, nothing beats putting on your country's jersey and going for gold. The NHL saw an opportunity too. The Olympics aren't just a showcase for the sport. They're a chance to pull in new fans, especially in Europe, where hockey's already got a hardcore following. There was a catch, though, and it put some real pressure on the Milan organizers. If the Olympic rink didn't meet pro-level standards, if the ice wasn't right, if safety was questionable, the NHL would walk. Pulling that many stars would tank the tournament and let fans down around the world. That threat loomed over the entire project, hanging over the heads of organizers and construction crews. As work fell behind schedule at the new Santa Giulia Arena, anxiety spread. The hockey world took notice, and journalists started demanding answers. The first test games were meant for December 2025, a safety net to work out the kinks before the Olympic spotlight hit. But as the year ended, the arena still wasn't ready. Officials, hockey federations, and even athletes started to panic. Inside, the place didn't look anything like a finished Olympic venue. Exposed walls and wiring, dust everywhere, some sections blocked by plastic sheets, the scoreboard missing, and basic touches like paint and flooring nowhere to be found. Most important of all, no one knew if the ice itself would be ready or even safe. The first test games finally happened in January 2026, dangerously close to opening night. It was a mad rush. Organizers tried to mimic real Olympic conditions, pushing the ice and the building to their limits with multiple games a day. At that point, only 3 of the planned 14 locker rooms were finished. The Zamboni ramp was built just 2 days before the test, a clear sign of last-minute scrambling. At the first game, play stopped to patch a small hole in the ice, sending a jolt of worry through the arena. After that, the ice held together, much to everyone's relief. Players noticed a few rough spots, but all things considered, the rink worked. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough to go ahead. Once the ice passed its test runs, the real challenge kicked in, getting the Olympic surface ready. Normally, this whole routine, leveling the ice, painting everything white, putting in the lines and logos, freezing layer by layer, takes months. You start 2 months out, layering, tweaking, making sure everything's perfect. But in Milan, they had 3 weeks, not a day more. The ice crew worked nonstop, splitting into shifts just to keep up. Meanwhile, construction teams were scrambling all over the arena, racing to finish whatever they could in time. Dozens of teams, all trying not to trip over each other. It got wild. Organizers ended up bringing in about 1,600 workers every day, operating in a non-stop rotation. It felt like the whole city was out there, people working, sleeping in shifts, chugging coffee, and just pushing through whatever needed doing. The goal? Get the place ready enough that it didn't look like a construction site on live TV, and make sure athletes had what they needed. Some things just didn't make the cut. For example, they had to shrink the arena's seating from 14,000 to under 12,000, since some sections just weren't close to ready. The fancy in-arena food stalls? Replaced by food trucks parked outside, which might not be ideal, but at least nobody went hungry. Even press areas and interior spaces got finished in a mad rush, sometimes literally as people were already arriving. Painters and installers ducking around TV crews, racing the clock. Right before the first hockey game, the arena finally worked. Just barely. Not flawless, and honestly, if you looked close, you'd see the quick fixes everywhere. But the crucial thing, the ice, was ready, and that meant the games could go on. No big disasters. The only reason things worked out? Thousands of workers putting in every ounce of effort they had, refusing to throw in the towel, even when it looked impossible. The whole Santa Giulia story shows just how much goes on behind the scenes at events like the Olympics. There's tons of engineering, scheduling, and crisis management that nobody watching on TV ever thinks about. People assume everything just works. The ice is perfect, the building is finished, there's a seat for everyone. When it all runs smoothly, the hidden machinery stays invisible. But when delays hit and problems pile up, suddenly these hidden efforts take center stage. Stress, scramble, and a lot of last-minute heroics. At the end of the day, the arena opened and the games started. Proof that, sometimes, it all comes down to the wire. The whole operation was held together by pure dedication from workers, engineers, and planners who simply wouldn't quit, even when almost everything felt stacked against them. It's a story about grit and teamwork, about people making things happen when it matters most, often without any spotlight. Here on SmartScope, these are the stories we love to dig into, the behind-the-scenes engineering and planning that make the impossible possible. We think knowing about these efforts gives us all a little more respect for the world around us, and the people turning blueprints and chaos into something unforgettable. Did you enjoy diving into the wild story of the Santa Giulia Arena? If you're curious about the hidden tales behind the events and systems that shape our lives, stick around and hit subscribe. Join the SmartScope crew as we dig into the awesome crossroads of engineering, logistics, and what people can actually pull off. There's a ton more to uncover. Think about the building of the pyramids, the crazy technology behind the Olympics, the secrets of ancient aqueducts, and the epic stuff in modern infrastructure. Got a friend who loves learning the real stories behind big events? Share this video with them. It might just change how they see the Olympics and all that goes into making it happen. And hey, if you haven't already, smash that like button. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next SmartScope video.